Hi, Jamie Benedict here in the Digital Marketing Classroom. Now I want to take you guys with me on a trip back in time. We're going to go back to the last great decade, the 1980s. I'm a child of the 1980s, and I really wanted to share this sort of technological history with you. Now many of you are probably part of that generation. And you'll know exactly what I'm talking about here. I remember in 8th grade, I had one teacher that had a computer in her classroom to play math games on, and I thought that was pretty cool. When I got to high school, we had a computer lab, but not for everyday use. That was just for special occasions when you had a paper to type. It was actually connected to the library, so teachers had to reserve it so that they could use it with their classes. For everyday use, I learned how to type on an electronic typewriter. Yeah, that was very exciting and very technologically advanced, I might add, at least for that time period. At least it wasn't a manual typewriter. Now, the reason I say all of that is because we have a different generation on our hands. And I always said when I started teaching that I wasn't going to be the teacher that said, when I was your age, but the older I get, the more I find myself saying that very phrase because it's just a different time. The kids today don't know a world without all of this technology. Heck, some of them have tablets in their hands while they're still in the stroller. It keeps them entertained. So this is one of the questions that I think has to come up when we talk about a digital classroom, and that is, are the kids of today technologically savvy because they've grown up with all of this technology? Now, when it comes to their phones, these kids know what they're doing. You've seen them in your classroom. They're getting on the Snapchat, they're getting on Instagram, they're getting on Twitter. Some of them are even still getting on Facebook, even though that's where we all are, and we've chased most of the teenagers off at this point. But these kids know their apps. They also know all the current games that are out and how to use those. Right now, Pokemon Go is the most popular thing going. We got kids running all over the place. It's the most exercise these kids have gotten their entire life. Hey, good for Pokemon for getting them out there and making these kids work. The kids know how to adapt to their technology that's held in their hands. But again, it doesn't really answer the question, are these kids technologically savvy? When we put a computer in front of them, do they know what they're doing? Well, there's a lot of articles that have been written that actually say that we need to adjust to the technologically savvy teens of today. Now, that might mean in education, that's going to mean in business, and it also means in our personal and family lives. I think we're giving them too much credit. And I don't want to take away from what teenagers are capable of. They're certainly very adept at what they do on their phones and tablets. But when it comes to computer, I think they're a little bit lost. And it's not entirely their fault. Because they've had access to the technology, a lot of the middle schools, a lot of high schools, and even some colleges are starting to get rid of the basic introductory level computer courses where kids learn how to type, where they learn how to format, where they learn what an Excel spreadsheet does, where they learn what PowerPoint does. Yes, they use all of these because we expect them to, but they don't really know what they're doing. And that's evidence for those of you that have collected papers from these kids and you've asked them to type it, that many of them don't know how to double space. They don't know how to change fonts and font sizes. They don't know how to use bold, italics, and underline. They really don't understand the features of the computer and how to make it work for them. So I'm going to go against what all of these articles are saying about the technologically savvy teenager. And I'm going to say that teens are not as tech savvy as we believe that they are. Now, what does that mean for us in the classroom? What that means for us, especially in a digital curriculum, is that we are going to have to go back and we're going to have to slow down and take these kids back to the basics. We're going to have to show them, here's how you format a paper. Here's how you set up an Excel spreadsheet. Here's how you do a PowerPoint. Here's how you complete an internet search correctly. So we have to show them all of these tasks so that they know what they're doing. Now, keep in mind that because of all of the other things that we have going on in our classroom, we're not going to be able to devote hours of this in class periods to this where we show them this. We may have to give them a quick rundown of what we want them to do. We're going to have to give them the Cliff's Notes version of what we want them to do with the computer. And I can assure you that by the time they walk out of your classroom, most of them are probably going to forget everything that you said. So that means that we're going to have resources available for them to be able to find answers on their own that say, here is how you do this. Here is what you need to be looking for when you're doing this. We're going to have to put those together, and rather than continuing to hold the hand of the student as they struggle, we're going to have to let them find answers for themselves and figure things out for themselves. And that's going to slow down the digital curriculum a little bit until we get these kids all back up to speed and say, this is what you need to know to survive in the real world. Now, in addition to that, I think another important part of being technologically savvy is understanding the pitfalls of those things that could go wrong when it comes to technology. And the kids are just not aware of that today. Many adults aren't aware of that. They don't understand that their web camera can be a portal to the outside world and that it can be turned on and off from an outside source because our computers are always connected to the internet through our wireless lines. They don't understand that their bank accounts can be hacked into simply because their password just wasn't strong enough. They don't understand the security there. They don't understand that their social media sites really are being looked at by every potential employer, and in many cases, colleges, to determine whether or not they want to accept this student into their school or hire this person for their job. And that is an important part of technology that these kids need to understand, is that once it's out on the internet, it never goes away. So it is going to be our responsibility to make sure these kids understand the ups and downs that go along with their technology and how they can use it responsibly and what they need to be doing with this to protect themselves. So there's a lot that goes into the technologically savvy question as far as whether or not these kids really know what they're doing. Now, that doesn't mean that all hope is lost. Certainly, we have the ability to do that because we've had to teach ourselves in many cases how these skills work, and we know what we want. So we have to be the ones that say, okay, this is what I want, and here's how I want it done. So we're going to be able to show them this is what needs to be done in the classroom. Here's how you're going to make this work for yourself. Thank you for taking time to join me in the Digital Marketing Classroom. Don't forget to follow on Facebook at www.facebook.com/digitalmarketingclassroom. And feel free to leave a comment or question so we can keep the conversation going. Also follow on Twitter at DIGMKTGCLASS. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you stay up to date on all of the videos that are posted. I'm Jamie Benedict in the Digital Marketing Classroom, and we'll see you next time.